fellow connoisseurs of movies, TV shows, and literature. Are you ready to shake things up? I know I am. You may call me Luke Garou.
Just keep going. There's enough light.
And I am here to share my opinions of all things movie, TV, and book. And I say, let's shake things up because my thoughts don't always match popular opinion of the subject matter I'm talking about. It's fascinating how my mind works. I'm the person that sees crimes in commercials. So, that should tell you something. And today, I foretell that prophecies are a very common trope, especially in fantasy novels. It's used throughout several ancient Greek stories too. The problem I found with this trope in movies and books is that people fall into one of two categories. Either they try to stop them, or they want to bring them about. Both are bad. Now, the most common group I have found are those that are trying to stop the prophecy from happening. Take Oedipus. His father heard that his infant, his newborn son, is going to grow up, kill him, and marry his wife. So, let's do the rational thing and order the death of my newborn son. How is that logical? How is that rational? Oedipus is rescued and raised in another kingdom. When Oedipus hears the prophecy that Oedipus will murder his father and marry his mother, he automatically assumed, oh crap, I don't want to hurt the people I love and who raised me, so I'm going to flee their kingdom to protect them, thus bringing about the prophecy where he murders his father and ultimately marries his mother. Brilliant! The whole thing could have been avoided if Oedipus's dad would have set aside his ego and his pride and his paranoia and just raised his son. If he would have raised his son like any kind, loving, healthy, adjusted father would have or should have, Oedipus would have heard that prophecy and gone, I can't hurt these people. I love them. Thus, ending the prophecy. Finite. Done. Another big prophecy we hear about is the one in the Harry Potter novels. Born as the 7-month dies to parents who have thrice defied the Dark Lord. You know, that whole thing. Okay, there's like two major problems with that prophecy. One, it's assuming your enemy can defy you. Defiance would be every single muggle living and breathing in the eyes of the We Hate Muggles group. Muggles just living their lives is an act of defiance. So, to say your enemy is defying you is pretty flippin' presumptuous, don't you think? But the next one, the biggest line, the total deal breaker, is neither can live while the other survives. Now, those of you who have been in counseling, or those who have been through trauma, or know the difference between living your life and being in survival mode, know that they are two very different concepts. And if you are in a war of any sort, you are not living. So if Voldemort, yes, it is Voldemort, the T is silent, it is a French word. It means flies from death or something, death. That's what the more is. More is death. I love French. I'm part French. I know very little French. Still trying to learn it, but pronunciations drive me nuts. Silver, stop telling me you're rejecting my flash drive. Now, if Voldemort would have just pursued his life of immortality and ignored this kid is going to kill him, if he would have withdrawn from the war and used the subtle politics that Lucius was a master of, he would have lived a long, healthy, challenge-free life and wouldn't have had to worry about an upstart 17-year-old half-blood killing him. Because he would have had no cause to want to protect his friends, to want to stand up to this massive bully. Again, how to beat the prophecies are in the prophecies. I will give an even better explanation a little further down. Now, still going on Harry Potter, Sybil Trelawney was the master of self-fulfilling prophecies. And the way they describe her is that she always stayed up in her tower, which meant she had ample opportunity to learn anything and everything she would have needed to know to wow her class with her abilities. So to tell the most clumsy boy in the year, young man, after you break your first cup, take a blue one, I'm rather partial to pink, tells his brain subconsciously, break a pink cup before you take a blue one and sit down. What does Neville go and do? He breaks a pink cup, has to take a blue one and sit down. If she wouldn't have said anything, if she would not have put it out there that he needed to break a pink cup, there's no saying he would have broken that cup. It was in the Matrix when Neo met the mother figure, the prophet person. She said, "Oh, mind the vase." And Neo turned with a "what vase?" and he breaks the vase. And she goes, "No, this will really blow your mind. Would you have broken that vase if I would not have mentioned it to you?" Again, is it the psychological, I need to break something before I can take something else and sit down? Or was he always predestined to just break a cup because he's clumsy? You never know. And somebody wants to get a hold of me. Hermione makes a very fair point. When one of their classmates is freaking out over the death of their baby bunny, Hermione brings up a very fair point. You could not have been dreading this letter or any part of this letter because it caught you totally by surprise. If you were dreading the death of your animal, then a letter confirming that your animal is dead is not so much a shock or a surprise, but a resigned, "Oh, I was right." Again, think about it. Now, there is The Hobbit. The Hobbit has a prophecy in it. And in the 1977 Rankin and Bass, I will be talking about that in a different video. I will. I had comments about it from Ms. Kitch Witch Tara from Recipes for the Cooking Impaired to please discuss it after she watched video 32, The Hobbit, a Case Study. When Gandalf says prophecies of old have come to pass and Bilbo scoffed him. Prophecies indeed. I had a hand in that. And he's like, yes, you did. But do you think everything you did was mere chance? Bilbo didn't really know anything about the prophecies. He was just living his life trying to survive. So, again, would it have happened the way it happened had he known more? Would things have gone worse for them? Would it have gone better for them? Because those two groups are the ones that know about the prophecies. Because then you have the ones below that are just living their lives caught up in it, like the hobbits were in Lord of the Rings. And a lot of the other characters in the Star Wars franchise. Because, as much as I love the pre-Disney takeover Star Wars, the Jedi proved time and again that they were the reason the Force was out of balance. The prophecy said, the Chosen One will destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Okay. The words destroy literally means no Jedi can fulfill that prophecy. Jedi are not meant to destroy. Jedi are guardians of peace and prosperity. And when a Jedi seeks to destroy something, they twist and rise and become that which they sought to destroy. Prime example of that. The Separatists kept saying the Senate was corrupt and vile and evil. Well, in trying to stop and silence the Separatists, the Senate became corrupt, vile, and evil. Hello? Spoilers to anyone who has never seen Star Wars. Anakin Skywalker was not the chosen one. Darth Vader was. Anakin needed to fall. Anakin needed to put the Jedi back to square one. Why? Because the Jedi were so arrogant and overconfident about their own abilities that they lost several files of data from their archives. Because one master who had actually dug deeper than the intelligence they were given, again, you have to read the comic books or the alternate universe, which Disney decided to go, doesn't exist. We're going to sever that by making our sequels. Don't like the sequels. I do not like them at all. It was like they plagiarized. No, I do not like 8, 9, or 7, 8, and 9. No. Will I endure watching them for you? Only if I get enough comments. But that's neither here nor there. Vader, like I said, needed to come about. Vader needed to make the Jedi that survived Order 66 realize that their intransigence from the time the Sith disappeared until that moment in history was what caused the Force to be out of balance. Thousands of infants rounded up from every corner of the galaxy because, they had Force potential. Infants brought to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and raised to deny half of their emotional spectrum. Yoda's favorite little mantra: fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. In and of itself is a fear-mongering tactic. You are literally telling every student that if they cannot keep themselves completely in control, they are doomed to never come back to the light. How is that helpful to the people who are supposed to be mediating massive conflicts? Obi-Wan learned in the novels that sometimes taking a more active approach, he left. Obi-Wan left the Order when he was still a Padawan, long before the events of Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan said, screw you guys, I'm going to help this planet. And then he was betrayed. Obi-Wan had to learn how to handle the rejection and betrayal, how to handle the anger that came from being betrayed and abandoned, the grief of losing the only ally he had left. Obi-Wan had that side rant, and it made him an overall better human being. The only reason why the Jedi Order welcomed him back is because he saved Qui-Gon's life. And then in turn, Qui-Gon saved his another time. Again, what does all that have to do with prophecies? The Jedi, especially Mace. Oh God, Mace Windu. I cannot stand that man. He has an ego the size of a Star Destroyer. A Jedi. Jedi cannot destroy. Again, Anakin had to fall. Why? Because when Darth Vader made the conscious choice to save his last link to the wife that Palpatine murdered. And you're looking at me like, what? What do you mean Palpatine murdered Padme? Like I said, you're probably looking at me like, what do you mean Palpatine murdered Padme? Sith Lords are so protective of their Padawans that if there is a chance that they can be saved, they will do everything in their power to save them, because it takes a lot of effort to make a student as complete as Anakin was. So Palpatine, being Darth Plagueis' Padawan, tapped into Anakin's connection to Padme and used that to siphon her life force out of her and put it into him. That is why Padme died. She was fighting her hardest to stay alive for her children. But with somebody so dark and so evil, literally siphoning her energy away from her and actively giving it to her husband, she couldn't survive. That is literally why Anakin said she was alive. I felt her right after Vader got into his suit. It's like, no, dude, you killed her. Because I wanted you to live. That's another reason why I don't like the Disney takeover. Darth Maul was dead. Had there been any chance of him surviving that fall, much less being cut in half by the lightsaber, Palpatine would have found him and either mended him himself or found him and ended him to make sure the Jedi couldn't get their hands on him. Again, no. Going back to Prophecies, Vader needed to make the conscious choice to give up being a Sith, while at the same time removing his master from the equation. That is how you destroy something. The darkness in Anakin in Vader, chose to abate and let go and turn back into a, hey, by the way, I'm not this evil, twisted machine. I'm a human being and I love my children even though I've caused them so much hell because I hate the Force. Because if you listen very carefully, especially in the books, Anakin only ever spoke of a daughter, which means Leia's Force abilities were a subconscious ability to shield and protect her brother, and then shield and protect herself once her brother got strong enough to make a stand against. It's amazing how that actually works. It happens again in the Dune saga, which also has prophecies. And those prophecies were subverted so badly because Jessica jumped the gun. Jessica was supposed to bear the mother of the super being. But her being Baron Harkonnen's daughter opted to give the Atreides Duke a son. And then she started training him in the ways of the Bene Gesserit, which is a big no-no. Thus bringing about the super being of the Bene Gesserit a generation early and outside of their control. Totally fulfilling yet destroying their prophecy about this super being that would unite the universe. Love that saga. A shame it has yet to get a decent adaptation. Now, you heard about the actively trying to bring them about group. Now, the second major group, the actively trying to stop group. The second major group is trying to bring them about. For those of you who have seen Alias, you know what I am talking about. Pardon. For those of you who have not, here is a major spoilers synopsis for the TV show Alias, starring Jennifer Garner, Victor Garber, and Michael Vartan. Vartan was the only reason why I watched that show, because he's one of my flavors. And for those of you who have not seen earlier videos, a flavor is a binge-worthy actor. Vartan has range. And he's fluent in French. But that's neither here nor there. Now, the major focus of Alias is on a Nostradamus-type character named Milo Rimbaldi. Milo's followers are absolute nut jobs. They actively try to make his prophecies come true. And you're probably trying to figure out what the heck, why, or how, right? Well, Sloane and main character Sydney's mom are quite devout. And when they find out that Sydney is the subject of... Oh.
So their parents were quite devout.
Yeah. Her mom and Sloane were quite devout. Now, Sydney's mom and Sloane also gave Sydney her half-sister. Which, irony of ironies, is yet another part of the flippin' prophecy that said Sydney and her sister were going to fight to near death. Or fight to the death. The death of actually the half-sister. Nadia, if I remember correctly. Now, one of the prophecies said that Sydney was going to wield the ultimate power for a woman. I don't mean to sound controversial. I don't want to step on any toes. But for the longest time, until we started getting test tube babies, women were the only ones who could get pregnant. Beings with a uterus and ovaries were the only ones who could get pregnant. Because that is what our purpose on this planet was for. Keep and maintain the human race. If you want to go by 90% of the religions. So, this prophecy said that Sydney was going to bear a child that was uber freaking evil. And the child would destroy the world. Well, the deal breaker for that prophecy was Sydney was never supposed to see a certain site she was never supposed to see a certain site at a certain part of time to cool the fever and hatred in her blood. Sydney made it a point to climb to that spot and see that site. Thus, in Rambaldi's prophecy, eliminating her as the proper mother candidate. Well, going back to the madness of Mommy and Sloane, they kidnapped Sydney and harvested her eggs and started making embryos in test tubes to put in surrogates, or to, worst yet, put back into Sydney. They made the baby that was supposed to be prophesied to destroy the world. Again, massive spoilers, and thank you for this. Sydney destroyed the lab. She destroyed everything in the lab. All the eggs, all the DNA samples, everything that was used, and it was supposed to be used to make this child, she destroyed. Because how dare they violate her on such a profound level? And stealing someone's eggs without their permission is definitely a violation. Stealing someone's sperm without their permission is a violation. And Sydney just wouldn't have it. She decimated that lab because it was the only place they could do that experiment. And Sydney made sure she got it all. Thus ending that prophecy. Thankfully. But the people used Rambaldi's old texts as their framework. And then they started using the modern technology of our world to actively try to bring them out faster and sooner. And the number of people they were hurting and killing along the way was devastating. And they still wanted more. They wanted this guy's future so badly. And everyone else is going, why? What the heck? Why this guy? Why are you so... He's nuts. Why would you want to follow this guy who's predicting a plague that makes you bleed to death internally? And that was an episode that had Vartan in the hospital. Again, massive spoilers. His character got infected, and the first symptoms were bleeding under the fingernails. And he ended up hospitalized, causing Sydney to go get the custom antibodies, the custom vaccine that needed his DNA to save him. Oh, it's a good TV series. It's a shame it ended. Well, it ended at a good spot. I'm not going to say it's a shame it ended. But still, you have to wonder, which group is worse? The, I don't want anything to do with it, so I'm going to try and stop it right away. Or the, ooh, I like what this guy's saying, I'm going to bring it about. Or are they both equally crazy and dangerous? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if there are any other books with prophecies that I might have missed that don't fall into the try and bring it about or try and stop it categories. And yes, even the Percy Jacksons had prophecies that they were trying to stop, that ended up still becoming self-fulfilling because they were trying to stop them. But let me know. Please, let me know in the comments. Are there any prophecies that you've heard of in different novel series? Let me know if there's anything else you want me to discuss. Like I said, if I get enough people asking for it, I will tackle the entire Star Wars movie saga. And I will rank them from my favorite to my least favorite. Or I will get into the whole expanded universe. At least the books of it I've read. Are there any werewolf movies you might want me to watch? Is there any sci-fi movies or horror movies you want me to watch? Let me know. I take suggestions, as I said earlier. Kitchwitch Terror is going to be getting a Hobbit cartoon video in the near future. But as always, kindness is the key to understanding. So be kind to me, be kind to each other in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell to save everybody from the zombies. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.